Hello, everyone. By this time, you are most likely at the end of my presentation. You either clicked on this link, you're watching it live, or I could have sent you this video, or you could have found it on YouTube. And if you're interested in looking at this PowerPoint, it is all about ransomware, what it is, and how to stop it with examples. And it is something very interesting, and I think it is something that everybody should be checking out all the time. So, what this video's purpose is to go through a ransomware that I had created on my computer that was stemmed from a lot of research as well as an online course that I'd purchased, but most of it was through my previous Java knowledge. And the course that I had purchased was not something I copy and pasted. It was more of the starter code or the starting ideas to get me going through this ransomware. Because without it, I would just go into this not knowing anything, especially because I thought this would be a lot more complex. Going through this, it is actually very simple. And it is something that, for my 2 years of Java knowledge, 2 school years of Java knowledge, I was able to pretty much do all on my own. If I were to be given this starter code, I would be able to do the rest on my own. It is so simple, and I think anybody can do it if they have the time to put the work in, which is pretty scary. And of course, this code is super easy, so it won't work if I just sent it to someone. But, and it is also, you could pay someone to just take it off super easily. But it is very cool for me to see that I could progress this into something that is very dangerous. And this is something that I feel like is important to address, since the purpose of this video is to be showing you how to stay safe with ransomware, and it will be explaining what goes through a hacker's mind. So, to get things going, another reason for the purchase of the online course was for these two classes right here. I'm not going to be opening them just because I don't want others online to be seeing these and using them, since they're pretty dangerous files. But what these two that I'm hovering over right here, Crypto Utilus and Crypto Exception, they are two files that will actually encrypt different files on a computer. And the reason that these had to be purchased is it is very common for someone hacking another person to buy ransomware to put on someone online. And they are typically purchasing the things that encrypt the files. These two could be things that I never change, since these don't do much work besides encryption. It is this main method that does 100% of the work. This is the thing that is always changing, always needing to be upgraded just so it can hack other people. So to get things going, I'm not going to be explaining this line by line in terms of what it means. I'm going to be explaining it by what it does. So the first thing right here is the actual key. It's 128-bit, and it looks pretty complicated, but if you paid someone, they could probably figure this key out in less than a couple hours. A typical hacker probably would use a very long key that they might have created on their own that is not randomly generated, or they could be using some type of voice recognition maybe that they have to actually just send to you to put into your computer, and then it would unlock anything. So these two classes are the exact same. They're just being called upon by different variables. So I'm only going to be explaining one of them. And what the file finder does is exactly what it says. It finds the files. What it also does is it finds what type of operating system that the computer is running on. So the first thing that it does is it calls upon switch GitOS. This GitOS class is right here at the very bottom, and it identifies the operating system and returns it. So Windows, Linux, Mac, Solaris, all of these it can identify and send back. And it does that by accessing the terminal, which every computer has a terminal. It's a little complex. I won't be getting into that, but if I could close this, there we go. So after it identifies it, it would typically then call upon a bunch of these little critical path list add critical path list is an array. Another thing, super complicated, but it would call upon this. These, though, are only for Mac. I did not go the route for Windows, Linux, or Solaris. As you see, I didn't even include Solaris up here. I just have Linux and Windows. And the only reason I included those was just to make sure that my operating system identifier would actually go through these, be like, no, no, Mac, this is a Mac. So this was not needed since I'm only working on a Mac, but it was something that I could then progress into using all of this and putting into the Windows one, putting into the Linux one, putting into the Solaris one, and identifying people's files through there. So what it does is it would then, after identifying as a Mac, it would then go down into this array list and add all the different files that are in these different areas. So right now, we're only going to be focusing on the desktop important files. We could be doing everything: desktop, documents, pictures. I could add mail, photos, calculator, anything I wanted to, any app I could add into this. And you might be seeing these, but these are commented out is what it's called. These will not work. They're pretty much there, but they don't do anything. So we're only going to be focusing on this one right here. So what the important files is it's just kind of a folder I made, which it will identify, and it has all these different 2 folders, different PDF documents. It has JPEG documents, text files, and there are a ton more that I could identify, but these are just the ones because they're simple. This one is something that you might see on someone's computer: bank information, Bank USA, Rocco Paul, username Rocco P, password please don't hack this 1234, balance unfortunately is $11.64. So obviously this is not my stuff, so please don't try it. That'd be really awkward for you. But that could be something you see on someone's computer, as well as these pictures that I had gotten for my basketball season. There's me, Dirk Nowitzki, 41. We love him, the GOAT. This is me shooting, turning around. Here's an ISM folder. This is most likely what you saw tonight if you were at the presentation, and as well as my resume that I had created online for some jobs that I'm hoping to hear back from soon. So those are just some important files that I'm hoping to encrypt and not be able to open at all. So after we do that, after we get that all those files and put them into this array, which is like another folder in the computer's memory, we are then going to go into this little loop. It will keep running and running and identifying what it is, encrypting it, decrypting it, whatever. So what it looks for is .jpeg, .text, .png, .zip, .pdf, .bmp, capitalized, PNG, capitalized, JPEG. After it finds whatever it is, it will pretty much run through all of this right here, and it will start either encrypting it or decrypting it, depending on what I called the class upon. So first it will encrypt it, and let's go look at what that does. So the encryptor class is, I mean, look at that. That is so basic and so simple. For a beginner Java learner, this is something that is very simple and very easy to learn. So the encryptor calls upon, like I said, the other classes and encrypts the files. And after it does that, it will go through it, and let's say I encrypt it and I can't get the key right in a certain amount of times, or I accidentally decrypt it and it were to not, it wasn't able to actually decrypt it. It's kind of confusing, but let's say I encrypt the file, go to decrypt it, and I don't have the password right a certain amount of times, or I encrypt it, I go to decrypt it, and I decrypt it 2 or 3 times on accident. Let's say I run the decryptor class, it will actually go and delete the file. So yeah, I had a couple files that were deleted during this process, but they weren't important. Thankfully I made copies, I think, let's hope. But after the encryptor of the files is made, I can put in that key that I was talking about earlier, and if the key works, it will then go back into one of these file finders, depending on which one's called upon, and it will find this line and decrypt it. The decryptor class is just as simple as the encryptor class. And one of the things that I had added that was so important is one of the sometimes with ransomware, it will encrypt the file, and what will happen is, as you'll see, it will put .encrypt at the end. And after you decrypt it, it will do .encrypt .decrypt. And if you're on, I believe if you're on a Windows, I'm not too sure, and you open it up, it will work and it'll be fine. But on a MacBook, there's a setting that it will only open files that it recognizes, and a .encrypt .decrypt it won't recognize. So let's say that I decrypted, encrypted, it just wouldn't work. It'd be really confused. So I actually had to add to where it would remove the encrypt at the end as while it's encrypting it. It's kind of confusing. I explained it the best way I could. If it doesn't make sense, you'll see it in a minute. So that is literally pretty much all the ransomware. The only last one that I didn't explain was the actual warning form, which is that big white box that shows up, and this is kind of all the boring stuff. This is just your files are encrypted, enter the key, blah, blah, blah. So it's not too important. So let's actually go and run it now. And boom, just like that, all your files are encrypted. In order to decrypt these files, contact the hacker. It's like, oh, well, I can just take this down and let's just see. Whoa, look at this. They all have encrypt at the end. Can I open them? No. Search for an application to do it. And it's like, okay, I'll just buy the application, right? Well, app not available. Okay, well, let me find something on the internet, right? Something on the internet that can open this. If I can remember how to do this. Here we go. Atom. Download this. Should open, right? Look at that. How do you read your bank stuff with all those little numbers and things? And this works for every single one. Like, look at this. The folder actually will have even more little lines. Look at all that. So it is pretty much from this point on impossible to open these up. And let's say that I tried to go in and rename the file and just remove the .encrypt. I've tried this and it deletes the file, which I don't want these to be deleted because they're kind of important. So enter key. I don't know what key is. I need to get the key from someone. So it kind of sucks, but you would need to get the hacker and get the key from them. So of course we have the key, and once we get the key, we can copy and paste it in. Let's say I didn't have the key and I was trying stuff out. Restore my files. Rocco got hacked. And now let's restore them. See if it works. Key entered was wrong. Be careful. Be careful, because if I do too many times, they'll get deleted. So let's say, oh, I actually got the key. Key was correct. Files under decryption process. Be patient. Once I click OK, watch these right here. Look, all back. Perfect. Just like I had them. Well, I would have hoped this went up a little higher than $11.64, but you know, they're all back. That's what matters, right? So now I can stop running the file, and that is literally what the ransomware would look like. So simple. I got this video explained in under 15 minutes from this point on. But the next thing that I'm going to be describing is something that I found pretty interesting. And one of the things I was actually able to do is create this Java into an application. And this application right here I call Doomsday. This is the thing that I could put into the social engineering of someone's computer. Social engineering be, you know, me tricking someone into opening it. I could open it on my computer, and look, does the exact same thing as before. So I'm very glad you got to watch this video. I hope it all makes sense. If you have any questions, want any more of my PowerPoints, presentations about cybersecurity, feel free to reach out. My email will be in the description. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll enjoy the rest of your day.